liberty in the fires of hope and prayer. With boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare, side by side we stand, islands of the blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our
Heavenly Father, we come before you at the start of this new day, giving thanks for life, for health, and the opportunity to serve through this station. We ask for your divine presence to guide us in all we do. Bless this broadcast, that it may be a source of inspiration, joy, and unity to all who tune in. Whether near or far, may our words uplift, our music heal, and our message bring light to those who need it most. We pray for our listeners, wherever they may be. Grant them strength for the day ahead, peace in their hearts, and success in all they put their hands to. Cover those traveling with your protection, and those at home with your comfort and provision. Lord, may everything we do bring honor to you and be a blessing to others. Guide our steps, bless our efforts, and let this station be a vessel of positivity and hope. In your name we pray. Amen.
Your voice, your soundtrack, your station. New Era TT Radio, Nat Radio.
Can you feel the love on a stranger's face? When my people dancing through time and space. It's our energy when we come down there. They say all we know is to jump and wave. It's in every creed and race. And the carnival is the holy grail. Whoa, oh, oh, oh. I feel I could stay right here, living the mass all year. Oh, 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 oh. I feel I could stay right here. Look how the mass have way. Everybody charge up. We going higher. Full of energy. Energy. Everybody charge up. We going higher. Full of energy. Energy. Whoa, oh, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Me pulse raising, we vibrate. Whoa, oh, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Me pulse raising, we are the drum shaking. Look around, it's all away. Jumping up past Pamela. Tell the bad vibes not today. Love is the only energy. Look around, it's all away. Every hand up in the air. Tell the bad vibes not today. Love is the only energy. Mama, you know when my artist buried in the savannah. From the hills in Gonzales, I could hear the panorama. You know where my waist is, behind a pretty girl. Familiar faces, make the sweetest bacchanal. Cause there's our energy when we come down here. They say all we know is to jump and wave. It's in every creed and race. And the carnival is the holy grail. Whoa, oh, oh, oh. I feel I could stay right here, living the mass all year. Whoa, oh, energy. Look how the mass are well. Everybody charge up. We going higher. Full of energy.
Wake up, rise up. It's the Net Radio Breakfast Show. Bringing you the energy, music, and vibes to start your day right.
Well, if you're looking for energy, we have that energy. So let me say good morning to everybody, wherever you may be. And it's really good to have you here on New Era TT Radio. New Era TT Radio. Net Radio. Heartbeat and the soul of the Caribbean. We'll be taking you above and beyond. It's a real pleasure to have everybody, wherever you may be, Trinidad, Tobago, up and down the Eastern Caribbean, across the wider world. Thank you very much for tuning in. Sir Charles, that is me. And of course, I want to take the opportunity to welcome everybody to your Get Up and Go. This is the Breakfast Show.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Wake up, it's a brand new dawn. The Breakfast Show got the vibes turned on. From Maracas Bay to the Savannah line. Let's start the day in Caribbean prime. Oh, oh, good vibes rolling through the air. The Breakfast Show, energy everywhere. We talk, we laugh, we make you think. Grab your doubles or your morning drink.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and good morning to our listeners and viewers wherever you are across the planet, and welcome to the Breakfast Show on New Era TT Radio, and of course we are streaming on multiple platforms: YouTube, Facebook, M&E TV, TuneIn. So welcome. Of course, it's Friday morning, so there's an extra bounce in my voice because it is Friday. The weekend has begun, people. Just in case you didn't know, we are here to remind you. So hope that you're having a fantastic day so far, but you should, because it's Friday. So welcome and good morning to you all. And of course, over to you, Wendell, to say your good morning greetings.
Yes, good morning, Richard. Good morning, Sir Charles. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. And good morning, listeners and viewers all over the globe. My apologies from early. I am struggling. I did not sleep a wink. And I woke up with, some sinus issues this morning. So my apologies from early o'clock. If every now and then I have to take off my mic and my camera, okay? So we're here. We're happy to be in the land of the living. There's beautiful weather outside. And yes, as Richard said, it's the weekend and we are happy to have you all here. Happy birthday to Peter Ray Blood. He is celebrating his birthday today.
Oh, he is? Okay.
Yes. Peter must be about 90.
Oh, God. I know you was going there, you know. I could foresee it.
He like in Tonglong.
Peter in Tonglong. But he's a very vibrant person. He never forgets people when he posts on Facebook. He never forgets people. You know, so happy birthday, a special happy birthday to Peter Blood. Of course, over this weekend is Mother's Day, and it's the birthday of Gaylan Perrott from Power 102.
This weekend is Gaylan's birthday. What she is on Monday?
May 12th is the weekend, right?
No, it's Monday.
May 12th is Monday?
Yeah.
All right. So I was a little rushed with that. I'll wait till Monday to wish.
Yeah, you're right like Gaylan, boy. You're pushing her birthday first thing in the morning.
No.
Yeah, Charles?
Yes.
We have a whole show. We started quite on Monday.
Listen, I guess it was both. I was going by a particular place yesterday, and I was talking to you, Richard.
It's a precautionary measure.
You caused me to guess it was both yesterday. I was talking to Richard about something very serious on the phone yesterday, and Gaylan was calling me, but I seen the call, but I said I'll call her back because not knowing Gaylan right there watching me, she said, "Seen you. You ain't even picking up your phone, you're ignoring me." I said, "Well, I was talking to Richard." Yeah, both.
That is the worst thing that can happen to you. That you see that somebody calling you like, "Oh, I could have canceled this call right now." But so they just have to look around. Wait, are they wrong somewhere?
And that's exactly what she did me. You understand? But of course, I'm in my vehicle, so I'm talking speakerphone. So she's calling me and she's seeing me not picking up my phone. I said, but Gilada in the vehicle, I had no phone to pick up. I said it was Richard on the phone. She said, tell Richard. Well, boy.
Yeah, but she's that kind of person.
Them country people aggressive, you know.
Yeah.
Oh God, hey.
It's aggression self.
But good morning to Gaylan.
Yes,
You know, good morning to you. Good morning to Shane too. You can't say good morning to Gaylan and not say good morning to Shane.
Good morning to Shane.
Yeah.
And good morning to Corey too.
And to Corey. Yeah, good morning to Corey.
And the next one who like the pel buffet. When you don't answer his phone.
You leave a stick message here.
Holy. I don't know if customers make out with Corey. You know?
Customers just cuss him back. That's one of the time.
It's probably a habit in the camp.
I only had to do, cuss them back. But you know what? We so much to talk about today, and of course the most important. The most important thing to talk about today, of course, would be the post-cabinet media conference. But we'll get into all of that. Of course, we'll have Gary Griffith in the next hour discussing some of the measures in that post-cab meeting. And of course, we also need to remind you that theater is on this weekend, this Mother's Day weekend. Married and Mischievous is on this weekend on Saturday and Sunday at Cipriani College. Of course, Sunday is Mother's Day, so I think there'll be some giveaways and stuff on that day. But we are on this weekend, Saturday at 8:30 and Sunday at 6:30. So you should not miss it. The box office at Cipriani College opens from 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily. Get your tickets. I know some outlets were already selling out some of their tickets as of yesterday. So get your tickets early. You know the outlets: Electronics in Arima, Jubilee Rawi in Tunapuna, and Tony's Flowers at Val Park Shopping Plaza, Charfler Auto Services, and of course all the K-Squared Fashions in North Trinidad, meaning K-Squared Fashions in West Mall, Eastgate, and Brentwood Mall in Chagonas. Get your tickets early. Last week we were sold out on both Saturday and Sunday, so you need to get your tickets early to see this play. It is hilarious, trust me. And of course, as I keep saying, it is for adults only, as Wendell can verify.
Yes, please. Because even adults cringing inside of that. But they all clapping at the end of the day.
Of course, we have to get into our good news segment because, you know, we always start with a little good news. This is an old video. Thank you, CJ, for sending me this video. I've seen this video before, but it's still nice to play it again because it puts a smile on your face. So let's get into our good news for
Look, the moon gone sleeping. Tell them we not leaving. Till the last drop of a canal is madness in the capital. So I feel like I'm running down again. Jump and shake the ground again. Play with all my friends and them. No place like home. I feel like I'm running down again. Jump and shake the ground again. Play with all my friends and them. No place like home. Now is the time for it to jam on somebody. Hands up in the air. Madness everywhere. Beating with DNA. You get on bad when we on the roadway. We like we on the way. Tell them freedom in with DNA. When every hand raised, we become one race. It's only one stage. This is the birthplace. Look where we are. Greatest carnival. So magical. It's a blessing sent from above. And we go jump till morning. Look, the moon don't sleep. Tell them we not leaving.
But that looked like a fun day that those children had. Of course, I was in American school doing Trinidad and Tobago Day, I guess. My niece she was in charge of, this is in Pennsylvania, they were doing international, my sister is going to buff me if she's listening, at like an international culinary day, and they picked 3 countries, and Trinidad and Tobago was one. So my niece was doing a lot of the cooking and organizing, and having like bus-up shot and doubles, and she was doing some other stuff. And you had to do a full course. So you had to do appetizers, main meal, main entree, and of course your dessert. So you have Trinidad and Tobago, and of course the Caribbean generally being represented in all manner of places across the planet, in all manner of ways that you may not expect. So, but that was one. I've seen this video before. I don't know if you've seen it before, Wendell.
Actually, I didn't. My apologies. I took that opportunity to go on.
Oh, okay. But I have seen it before, but it's still nice to see it again. So that was our good news for today, to put a smile on your face.
I guess you can also add to that good news that well, it's not good news, but if we could get into the post-carb held by the Prime Minister. But
before we do that, we have to greet all
okay, let's do
comment section. We always do that, and they look forward to it, I'm sure.
Let's do that. Susan Jessup, of course, came in again first at 1:52 a.m. Blessed morning, guys. Sir Charles Richard Wendell, love always from Suzanne, Suzette, and Mrs. Gemma. Steph said, good morning, guys. Melissa, good Champflet, good morning. Champion of Democracy, Grand Rising, Friday morning. Let's give our Heavenly Father thanks. All right. Marlon Motley says, good morning. Boy
Good morning.
From DB says, good morning. Brent Hackshaw also says, good morning. Patricia Defoe. Mr. Robert Taylor, good morning. Hope you all have a blessed day. Pearl Cordis, good morning. Have a blessed weekend. Ingrid from Tucson, Arizona also sends good morning greetings. Slick Money Grip, gentlemen, the weekend is here. Enjoy. Rena Budu Jennings, good morning. Lambert Bruce also says good morning. Joyce Phillip, good morning to the Breakfast Show family. Marcia Rock, good morning, gentlemen. Do have a blessed day and a great weekend ahead. Happy Mother's Day to all the women out there locked on in Orlando, Florida. Carl Guevara also says good morning. Have a wonderful Friday and weekend. Cheryl Johnson, happy Friday, guys. Michael Robinson from Yokohama, Japan. You must be celebrating the weekend almost already. Wayne Ramsey from Fort Lauderdale says good morning. Powerful words, Sir Charles. What words? What was that Sir Charles said? You mean your prayer this morning?
Probably that is.
All right. Just a Nice Guy says good morning. Best morning show in Trinidad, undoubtedly. Thank you very much. Just a Nice Guy. But you should be just a great guy now, not just a nice guy. We christen you just a great guy, right? Julia Batiste says good morning. Arch Nemesis. Okay. Well, I'll get into that a little later. Good morning from CJ. Wonderful people. Do have a fantastic weekend. Remember to smile and laugh. It's great for your health. CJ. CJ Ragubasek. Apollos says good morning to all. May the blessings of God be upon us. Let us have peace and love in blessed country, Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad Margot says good morning, gentlemen. Subhash Bongal. Good morning, Katia and Charles. The weekend has begun. Steve Waterman says, good morning. Thank God it's another Friday. Marcel Johnson, good morning. Sherwin Kerr, Far Rockaway, good morning and blessings to all. Michael Robin, okay. Alexander Ramdas, so happy I found this channel. I listen to you every morning going to school with my mother. Tried logging on to hear your election coverage and was so shocked you weren't on air. Rest in peace, Dr. Joe. Well, we are back, Alexander. We were actually back just before elections.
Yeah, just before we were back on, yeah.
Jerry Dollaby, my very good friend and one of the best cricketers in Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, all. The reward for work well done is more work. Have a blessed day. All these are repeats. Shelly Ann Ragunath is new. Good morning, gentlemen. I have been listening since the days of Dr. Job. I met Mr. Stevens on a flight to Miami before COVID and wanted to congratulate you all. Thanks. Nice to meet you, Shelly Ann Ragunath. And of course, these are repeats. Miguel Gonzalez says good morning. Cat Consulting Service, who is Chris Toussaint, also says good morning. Gavin Frank, Ron DeSantis Jr., Owen Johnson, Andre Reno, Valerie Mendoza, and Lester Cragwell all says good morning and have an absolutely fantastic weekend.
Oh, so that was quite a list this morning. So good morning to everyone on our stream. Of course, we are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and M&E TV across Trinidad and Tobago, and of course, across the entire Caribbean.
Great news, Caribbean. The Breakfast Show is now on M&E TV, bringing you entertaining conversations, vital information, and influential perspectives throughout Trinidad and Tobago and across the Caribbean region. Catch us on Digicel Channel 20, Flow Channel 111, Amplia Channel 117, Blink Channel 109, Trico Channel 154, and Airlink Channel 10. The Breakfast Show connects with the Caribbean and Trinidad and Tobago like never before. We're now on M&E TV.
And of course, M&E TV, the Flow channels aren't always 111. Who by me, it's 111. I know by my sister, it's 109.
It's 109 by me.
Yeah,
it's 109 by me. It's 109 by me too.
Yeah. So the Flow channel switches up a bit in some areas, right?
Yep.
So just remember that.
Yep.
Just look for M&E TV. That's the important thing.
As we're going forward, let me also say good morning to some people on the WhatsApp who are coming in early. Also, good morning to Colin out in Carenage. To Black Pearl, good morning to you. Aisha, good morning. Archbishop Ashton Clark out there in Canada, good morning. And Suzanne is always here early with us also. And GNC Auto Security.
All right. Great.
Thanks for joining us on the absolute best. And
well, of course, one of the things that we have to do before we get into the conversation, Wendell, is this. The Breakfast Show crossed 1,000 subscribers yesterday. So it is an achievement in record time. Actually, in record time, in our first month, we have crossed 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. It's no mean feat, and we want to thank all of our listeners and viewers because you made it happen.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. You know our goal. We have lofty goals, and our goal is to eventually get to 100,000 subscribers. So keep us moving on with those numbers. But thank you so much to our listeners and viewers. I think that was a record time in terms of getting to 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel.
No other streaming platform has done it. No other streaming platform.
So
locally has done it. Locally, I should say.
Of course, all of you who are on M&E TV and on TuneIn who are watching us, because we're also broadcasting on TuneIn, and some people are listening that's on smart devices because they worked it out. Of course, you can also go to the YouTube channel at New Era TT Radio, New Era TT Radio, and also subscribe. Subscribe and like, it's important. So don't underestimate the power of liking our videos and subscribing, and of course, hitting that notification bell. So now that the housekeeping business is out of the way.
No, Richard, I also want to thank a particular texter who always says it. Whoever goes under the name of Joyce Phillip, that person, she always says, press the like button, share and subscribe. She's been consistently saying that on the chat.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much.
So thank you very much, Joyce Phillip. And good morning, Ray, Sabita, BSA, and who else is new? Simon Shalto. David Wares jumped in there and said he thinks the difference with Flow is Digicel. Flow is Digicel and analog system. Okay, all right. So, post-cabinet press conference, yes.
Well, that was the biggest news yesterday in terms of the news items coming out of that media conference. And it was there were two things that I liked what they did. I liked that there was a presentation of the entire cabinet behind her.
Yeah, it looked so glum though. I don't know why.
But it still was a kind of powerful image. From an image point of view, it was an interesting image for your first post-cabinet media conference, because I assume that's not going to happen for every post-media cabinet conference.
Yeah, I was putting them all the Saturday.
The second thing that I like too is that there were these talking points, I believe that they released after like media statements on some of the key points that were discussed in the cabinet meeting.
Well, you know, that was based on a question that was asked. Right there and then in the post-cab conference, the Prime Minister told the Mr. Parrott, I think, to make sure and get this to all the members of the media. Right. It was based on a question someone asked.
But I liked it. I felt it for people who miss media conferences, because sometimes media conferences start late and sometimes people have something called life going on, and so they can't necessarily tune in. So it's nice to have those quick points of what are the main points that were indicated or what was talked about in the media conference. So I like that too. So yeah, if it came out of a question, kudos to whoever asked that question. Yeah. But so much to unpack from that media conference, and I could just go through some of the points that she raised.
First, Richard, let me say, I thought Mrs. Persad-Bissessar clearly is not the Mrs. Persad-Bissessar of 2010 to 2015. At least so far. She clearly wants to take a strong handle on what is happening in her government. And I hope that she maintains it, because Lord knows she will need it with some of them characters she has there. She will need a very strong hand on them. And I thought that she clearly demonstrated that again yesterday with some of the things that she would have enunciated in front of all of them. And she says she don't care if anybody vex. She basically said that. You understand?
Yeah, she said that at points. She did say that at points.
Yeah.
So some of the key points, if we could just go through them quickly, and I'm not saying that this is an exhaustive list, but there's just some of the key points because I watched part of it yesterday. Of course, the repeal of the TTRA, so the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority, they're going to repeal it, and she said legislation will soon be put in place for that, to be repealing of the TTRA, and also the scrapping of the merit points.
Yeah.
So the merit points.
Two things, though. Me personally, I don't understand why that's being done.
Yeah.
I know it was an election promise, but I don't understand why.
Well, it's an election promise that got them elected, part of a group of election promises. So there's some people that hate the merit points. So I assume they're appealing to that base, that requesting that. So the repeal of the TTRA, the scrapping of the demerit points, these are some of the things that she brought up yesterday. They're going to expand the Children's Life Fund, and the Minister of Health is going to have more oversight, personal oversight into some of the people, because that has always been a little controversial at times, and it has made it media from time to time of people who seem deserving of getting access to the Children's Life Fund and don't get access. They're refused by whatever committee or board that says, no, you don't qualify for whatever criteria. That has made the news several times. And of course, for those of you who don't know what the Children's Life Fund is, it's a fund established by the state and funded by the state, whereby children who have surgeries, that can't be performed in Trinidad and Tobago, it will be paid for outside of Trinidad and Tobago to wherever else they're going to get the surgery done, or whatever type of surgery it is. So that's what the Children's Life Fund is. I'm kind of simplifying it, but that's basically what it is. So they are revamping that and expanding it, and that's what she said yesterday. The Stand Your Ground legislation. Well, that was a big part of their platform prior to the elections. So the Stand Your Ground legislation is coming. In addition to which, of course, ease of accessibility to firearm licenses for citizens. And she made the point of saying that, some people have a problem with that. And her answer to them, I'm paraphrasing very liberally. Okay, let me put that out there, was that if you don't want it, don't apply.
Yes.
But those of you who do, the process, the accessibility process is obviously going to be made easier. That's the sense you get from it. I don't know if that's a legislative and workflow process that is going to come onto being. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure how that will work in conjunction with the fact that is it that we're taking away the final approval from the Commissioner of Police? And
Well, that's why I'm saying it's probably going to be a legislative or legal notice tweaking of the process. Obviously, the process of how you approved for a firearms license is going to change. And it's going to be changed with the intention of making it easier for law-abiding citizens to access firearms if they want it.
Yeah.
But make no mistake, there is a connection to the stand your ground, because stand your ground implies that you can protect your property.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a synergy between the two. So that we're gonna see that's one of the things that she talked about.
I wish them luck with that one.
State-funded security. They said they're going to revisit the list of state-funded security because there are all manner of officials in the public sphere who have state-funded security for whatever reason.
But I didn't follow that either, because those are people basically in government outside of the Chief Justice and judges. Those are people who are in government.
No.
The Attorney General, the Minister of National Security. Who else?
No.
Who else?
No, you have people who are under threat. You have lawyers who are doing cases, senior lawyers who are doing certain types of cases that get state-funded security.
I would imagine
they are acting for the state.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, Richard.
So they're acting for the state.
And who drives around with armored vehicles? She mentioned that people are driving around with 4 and 5 armored vehicles.
I have no clue.
Where that man?
I have no clue where that came from, but it was said. But anyway, she said they're going to revisit the list of state-funded security, and whatever they can, whoever they can kick off the list, they're going to kick off the list. And the funding is going to be redirected to the fight against crime. That's what she said. She also talked about state-funded housing. That, we have government state-funded housing, and they're going to look at that list. And she told her ministers, don't ask for any state-funded housing. She said, you are getting a housing allowance. If you want a place in Port of Spain, pay for it yourself.
So who's going to go? Because there's a housing stock that the government owns in Port of Spain. I could tell you in Flagstaff, in Victoria Keys, and I think in Federation Park, there are government houses where ministers who do have a house. I don't know if they do have a house, but we have had ministers living in certain places. I can attest to that because. And I'm talking about that spanned both governments.
But she said she's revisiting that, and I suppose some of those people will be told to leave. I guess I don't know, but I can't say what the outcome of what the policy would be. But she certainly said they would be looking at state-funded housing, and she was very clear that none of her ministers has asked for state-funded housing.
Yeah, I heard that.
She was very clear on that. She said you get a housing allowance if you want a place in town, pay for it.
Yeah,
basically,
I can't be against that either.
Yeah,
gotta be living somewhere right now, eh?
Well, but she also said that the country's small, so that wherever you live in, you could drive to get to town if you have to get to town to do whatever it is that you have to get to town. She also talked about.
She talked about
parliamentarians and their cars. Yeah, and their vehicles.
Yes.
That she was going to ask her secretariat to look at the exemptions for cars and put a cap on.
Is that done already though?
No. That was promised and it was never done.
I don't know that
he promised it and he never did it.
I don't know that it was ever done, but they're going to put a cap on the kind of vehicles, the price of vehicles that you could go up to, I guess, in terms of parliamentarians and the very wonderful perk they get in terms of purchasing vehicles.
Well, guess what car she mentioned? The same car that was controversial with one of her ministers. If you
Prado?
remember, the Maybach.
The Maybach, right. She mentioned the Maybach.
That's what got one of them in trouble.
Yeah, she mentioned the Maybach. And she said, well, I drive a little old Prado. So, I don't know that Prados are never little or old. But they can get old, but they're never little.
No, there's no little Prado anywhere.
All depends on where you stand on the ladder when Richard.
But they can get old. I give you that, but they're not little. But yeah, so I assume that would resonate positively with a lot of people because some people groused about that. And
I had a real problem with it.
Yeah. So that's just some of the stuff that was said in the media conference yesterday.
Well, hold on. One of the major things raised, which is what I thought that we should poll, because a texter named, I think, Scorpion Pepper raised it yesterday, and I did say we should discuss it and maybe poll it. And that is the issue of the rolling back of the salary increases. Akash Samaru dared to raise it.
He asked the question, yeah.
He dared to raise it.
But remember, I told you that when you raised it, I think it was yesterday or earlier in this week, I told you, I don't think that can happen, that raises legal issues.
Mm-hmm.
I told you that, and so said, so done, because I didn't see it as an issue that they could roll back, because from the time you give people raises, and these were sanctioned and rolled out,
mm-hmm.
to roll it back takes immediately is a challenge.
But
It
Richard,
immediately becomes a challenge.
I'm just saying, and which is what Akash basically said, and I guess people are asking, roll it back for the politicians, well, for the government ministers and opposition, roll it back for them, leave it for everybody else, roll it back for them. You understand? So that's I think that was the basis of Akash's question and the basis of everybody right now. Roll it back to the politicians, but leave it for the other office holders.
Yeah, but you will have people affected who could also take it to court, Wendell.
Well, I hear that.
You have former prime ministers who are getting pensions related to it. So it becomes a big legal headache, which is why I told you I don't think that they would do something like that, because it's a big legal headache.
But it's a little bit of a hypocrisy on the politicians' behalf, and I'm speaking across the board here.
Well,
because all politicians knew they were benefiting from it. One group of politicians put it on the platform and make it sound like if there's only one group getting it. But guess what? They get into office and they put an oversized cabinet that's all of them getting it now. You understand?
Well,
so,
you can't.
I don't think that was it also, I remember, even though everybody will get it because somebody proposed it, and if it goes across the board, it comes just like when the trade union negotiates, even members who are out of the union, they benefit. But it doesn't mean, they said that at this point in time, remember they said that it should not be implemented because they just found that it was not the right time.
I'm arguing that point, and I'm agreeing with that point. But if we're going down the road of scrapping property tax and maybe refunding people, now the Prime Minister didn't mention about refunds yesterday. I noticed she stayed away from that. If we're going down that road and the merit point system, then let's go down the road and scrap the SRC report.
You can't do that when there are legal issues. Which part of that sentence you didn't understand?
I understand it fully.
It will cost the state more, in my opinion, in the long term, fighting a lot of those cases, because some of those same PNM people that instituted it are going to sue if you were to do it.
But let them sue.
Yeah, and they are right to, Wendell, you're protecting whatever your income is.
No, Richard,
your income was approved at a certain level by the SRC, which is an independent body. Now remember that the SRC is an independent body that is assessing salaries. In other words, the Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, didn't go to the SRC and say, give me this raise, It is assessed.
That's how it was made to sound like last time.
No, that's not how it's done. And you know that.
I know that.
SRC is an independent body that analyzes market rates across across the Caribbean. They would look at the comparative rates across the Caribbean. They would look at rates in terms of CEOs of different companies across the country, and they would come to that point of looking at what would be a market rate at this point for Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. That's how it was assessed. The optics of it was the problem, because you had a 4% raise that you were offering to public servants and to a lot of other unions, and while you were getting substantially more than 4% in terms of what the SRC was suggesting or recommending. And of course, implementation always rested with you in terms of whether to implement or not. That's a decision that the government had to make. So you have those sorts of issues. But rolling back, to me, it was probably going to cost more and have taxpayers pay more in terms of the cases that will come forward from that. That's how I see it. But of course, the AG did speak, and the AG said no, there are legal issues he didn't really speak long on it, but basically says that it was a difficult legal issue to navigate. But we'll see what happens, if they're going to make the attempt or not. But that certainly was one of the issues raised via a question from Akash Samaru. And there were a couple other questions too that were raised. I just can't remember them off the top of my head. As I said, I didn't listen to the entire thing. I just listened to parts of it. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But you know, this is the point at which we can take some of the calls from our listeners before we head to the morning poll.
Well, there are some things in the chat too that we could also raise, and some new people came in. Valerie Mendoza, Volsang, Sidena Kwashi, DL, of course, Sterling Francois. A lot of things happening in the chat, you know. So Finbar Collins morning, and today apparently is one of CSEC. Is CSEC or Cape? Which one of them have exams today? There's maths today, mathematics today. I think I saw. You know,
one or the other, Cape or CSEC.
Yeah,
they probably have. Yeah. Well, we'll go to our calls shortly. We'll go our calls. We'll just take a short break and come back, and we'll start taking your calls on 281-1315.
RSRR Productions continues with Married and Mischievous. It's been held over for 2 more nights at Cipriani College due to overwhelming public demand on Saturday the 10th of May at 8:30 p.m. and Sunday the 11th at 6:30 p.m. It's Mother's Day weekend, so treat your mom to this fantastic adult comedy. Yes, Married and Mischievous. Tickets available at usual outlets and at the Cipriani College box office from Wednesday the 7th of May, 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily. This is not just a play, it's an experience.
S&H Rumbox, 137 Western Main Road, St. James, for all your retail and wholesale needs for alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. Call us at 686-0599 or visit us at 137 Western Main Road, St. James. S&H Rumbox, drinking out of the box.
Advertise with us on New Era TT Radio, the fastest growing streaming platform for talk in Trinidad and Tobago. Audio and video ads welcome. Elevate your brand with us. Connect with us at newerattradio@yahoo.com or call us at 299-5156. Now what are you waiting for?
So we're back and we're taking your calls at this point, 281-1315, 281-1315. You can WhatsApp call us. So if you're in any other part of the planet, you can put the 868 before it. And of course, 281-1315. I'd love to hear from our Caribbean neighbors too, 281-1315, or you can direct call us at that number. We're taking your calls. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Far Rockaway, happy Friday to all you and the listeners. With respect to rolling back that salary to the Prime Minister and everybody else, besides it opening up itself to big litigation costing millions of dollars that will end up at the Privy Council, that is also opening up itself that is also a dictatorship move. You go and that come like you're going directly against Mr. Rowley. I'm no lover of Mr. Rowley, but that comes just like if you're going, well, I'm coming after you now, and I want to give back that salary. And it'll come like that will be a real witch hunt and a dictatorship move. So I don't think that's a good move at all. He already got it. Everybody got it. Let them keep it. You can't do anything about it. That's too much money will be involved to roll that back. That's my point of view with respect to that request about rolling it back. Okay, gentlemen, have a great weekend. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Far Rockaway.
Richard, I don't know if you mentioned the laptops also for children. That is.
No, I didn't mention that.
Come back by the new school too.
By the new school team, she said laptops would be back, and she's told Minister Dowlat to make sure that that's
implemented.
For the September term.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm not in Trinidad and Tobago. We're using a word, and I'm not sure if we understand the meaning of the word. This word dictatorship that everybody likes to banter about. I wonder if we understand the meaning of that word. How is we feeling the dictatorship? I don't understand that at all. Anyway, on another point, Kamla Persad-Bissessar in her first post-cabinet review, as not a supporter of the UNC, I will tell you, she's looking very good. She's sounding very good. I would just like to ask the question, the people who has gotten the merit point system, maybe Richard could answer this question, would question it now, re-qualify them to, maybe the people who have lost their license for the points, or people who have points, question it now terminates all that shenanigans with the merit points.
It depends. I think it will depend on the legislation, because you would need some sort of legislation to do away with the demerit points, because it's a creature of statute. So you would have to have a statute to repeal it, and it will depend on whether there is some retroactive clause that indicates all of that. So it will be
right. Well, once they terminate the post people with points, I find that's a fantastic idea, right? And the thing with vehicles, and I have had a problem with that from the beginning of time. The only problem is, she said, I have a little Prado. Anybody know the cost of a Prado? We started at $750,000, you know. So if you're capping the started at $700,000, you ain't pretty much have a cap. You understand? I'm not saying the minister don't deserve to be in a Prado, but $1 million cap, because if a Prado is up now, so you might cap it at $1 million. I mean,
I don't think the cap is the problem, you know. I think the problem is every 2 years they are allowed to do that. I think that's where the problem is.
Yes, that is a very problem. I love the thing about stopping ministers from the housing. I love that. You want a housing federation?
I don't think it will happen, though.
You want a housing federation? I don't think it will happen. I don't expect it, but it sounds good. You want a housing federation pass? Nothing wrong with that. You could get it. However, you have to pay for it. It ain't coming free.
Yeah.
You understand? Just like every other citizen in this country, you're getting it. You have to compete for it, but you have to pay for it.
Okay.
With the housing allowance that you're getting, you see, you're getting housing allowance, and then you're getting a free house. That's my thing. She's sounding real good, and so far she has my support in the things that she is saying. And let's wait for implementation now.
Okay, no problem. Thanks very much.
One of them hounds go back and
easy this morning. It's Friday.
Snap a down leg and take a bite. They wouldn't leave her. They wouldn't leave her on a law. Well, I'm hoping they do, but I don't know that the kind of people she has in her cabinet, I don't know that they're going to tolerate being spoken to or being restricted as much as she is attempting to do right now. It's good that she is attempting to do it, but I don't know that they will take it for long. Let's see.
Caller, are you there?
Good morning.
Morning, caller.
Yes, good morning. I listened to the press conference yesterday, and what happened? I'm not getting a clear picture of the financial situation of the economy.
Watch, look at you seeing, you're watching. They did that on TV. Zero. There's $0.
Yeah, well, what is it? What about this thing about you look for money? What is all that about?
Well, they had to find money. They're gonna hold on. I actually have a message from someone. Someone sent me an early morning message. Let me find it for you. Because she did say how she is going to access money. You know, you all may have missed that. Let me find that message. Was it from Jaron? I think.
Well, anything else that you?
No, that's all I'm curious about, because I was listening to trying to hear, well, what is the financial?
Yeah, where the money coming
before
from?
Before you start to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no problem. Thanks very much, caller.
It's a midterm review. So a midterm review is, coming into power in the middle of a midterm review is a little difficult to navigate, because you have all of these ministries who have submitted what they needed from the midterm review since December or January.
Let me read for you how the government intends to address the financial deficits. Trinidad and Tobago for the month of May, which is the month we're in, has a cash deficit of over $4 billion. The government proposes to address the deficit as follows. Drawdown on remaining $2.7 billion available in the overdraft facility at Central Bank. refinance a minimum of 60% of Treasury bills during May. Heritage and Stabilization Fund available balance of $1.76 billion to be drawn down for the rest of fiscal year 2025 and undertake additional borrowing of about $1 billion. So they did say where they're going to be getting the money from. All right? And this is from yesterday's post-cabinet media briefing notes.
Okay. Caller, good morning to you. Welcome.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Morning.
Morning, caller.
We'll probably get some more details from the finance minister today, as was stated by the prime minister. But I really have a problem as it relates to the demerit point system, in the sense that the purpose of it was to bring about a change in driving behavior of Trinidadians. And you gentlemen must know that it leaves a lot to be desired. I could understand removing penalties as it relates to points regarding non-moving violations such as parking and tail light and headlight blowing and that kind of thing. But Trinidadians have a habit of not conforming to the road traffic rules. I'm sure you gentlemen would agree with me. You see it every single day. And I really think it should be rethought. We don't know for sure if it means they're going to take away the penalties, the fines as well. We probably wait to see, but we need something else to make drivers do what it is they're supposed to do. All right. I do hope that we'll get clarification on that. I'll listen to your thoughts. Thank you.
Well, the Minister of Transport tasked with that now, to come up with, implement, to set policy for how to discipline or control the road rage that sometimes takes place. We see it all the time. You know, because anyway,
but it should be a consultative process, in my opinion, that you'd have to bring in the experts in the field, like the Commissioner of Transport should have a conversation with the Minister of Transport. What are the benefits? What are the negatives in terms of the demerit points, if there are negatives? Obviously, there's some negative, else why is it on the platform? So obviously, some citizens have complained about it.
Populist, Richard. It's popular. That's all.
So I just think things should be done intelligently and logically. So you have some sort of consultation, not only with the Commissioner of Transport, but also with other NGOs like Arrive Alive and stuff like that, in coming to some sort. If you're removing it, what's replacing it?
Yeah.
You know what the Prime Minister and Cabinet has to recognize?
Hold 1 minute, I went there.
Somebody's on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
We have a lot of people there, actually. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, man. Hi, morning, fellas. What's up, everybody in the house? My thing with the demerit points is okay. I not here or there for that, but my concern is the fines. Is the fines being removed, or is just the demerit points? Because the fines are very onerous. It's 2,000, and when you bring these people in, I think you all should bring up the idea of the fine, because the fine is connected.
Some fines were in fact reduced, not so, Dean? Just about a year ago, some fines were reduced, not so?
Yeah. Yes. And that could be, they said they were reducing the fines. And okay, that needs to be clarified how much and then, because those fines were very high to the extent to the people's salary and shit fines. That's why I agree with the demerit points. $200, $300 fines, then you have a warning, then a second warning, a third warning, and stuff. But if you get 2,000, so maybe there's some clarification on if it was dropped.
Well, they only mentioned demerit points, and they didn't mention fines.
They didn't mention it. So I suppose more information will come out.
Let's talk about fines.
As the issue is ventilated later on. But certainly, as I said, it needs to be intelligently done and with the conversations with the necessary stakeholders, because ultimately we all want the same thing: safe roads.
Caller, good morning.
Well, you need to be a last call if you're going to the poll and answer ballots.
Caller.
Good morning to the panel.
Morning.
One of the things that struck me yesterday was the cost of the refurbishing of the Prime Minister's residence. and it struck me that it was around the same price to retrieve the fire truck. What I would like to ask my brothers there is whether the scope of work that total this $5 million would be advertised, and the contractors who will be awarded the contract will be known to the public. And it would be very interesting if my brothers there would get the scope of work and detail this $5 million for more, which I know any company could deal with mold in your premises. Have a nice day.
Okay, thank you very much. Isn't that a unicut kind of thing?
Well, we don't know who they're going to be using, but state buildings come under the purview of the Minister of Public Administration. All state buildings come under the purview of the Minister of Public Administration. At least that's how it has been. A lot has changed with this government. We'll wait and see.
Okay. We going to the poll, Richard?
Yep. That's what he's been typing up there.
Oh, okay. I have a choice of different polls because I know I should eliminate this one. This was the one from yesterday. Right. So we have I have this one. Did you think the Prime Minister did well in her first post-cabinet media conference? Because I think Lincoln mentioned it. He thought she did well.
I also mentioned it too. I thought she tried to keep a firm hand on the cabinet.
So that could be the poll. I don't know what you think, Wendell.
Yeah, I don't have no problem with that. I have no problem with that.
We're not going to go. You don't have much time.
Yeah.
So that's our poll this morning. Did you think the Prime Minister did well in her first post-cabinet media conference? Yes or no?
All right. So remember, we're calling now for the poll, not for comment.
Yes, just the poll you're calling for now, right? Yes or no? Okay.
Vote in the comment section on Facebook and YouTube. We'll get your votes. And of course, if you're on TuneIn or on M&E, you need to WhatsApp your votes if you don't want to call in at 281-1315, 281-1315. WhatsApp your vote or call in your vote.
All right, we have lots of votes coming in already. Richard, are you ready?
Yep.
Let's go. Lester Cragwell, yes. Carnage TV, yes. Alistair Hart, yes. CJ, yes. Boy Bidesi, yes. Michael Oliver, yes. Marlon Motley, yes. Robert Taylor, yes. Sherwin Kerr, yes. The Allen Projects, yes. Laurie, yes. Champion of Democracy, yes. Tall Boss, yes. Candice Pascal, yes. Ila Razan, yes. Far Rockaway, yes. Gregory Boyer, yes. Rhea Simpson, yes. Right, those are the votes we have thus far. It's 6:59. Oh, you have 1.5 minutes again to vote, people. Let's get those votes in.
So, Charles, do you have any on WhatsApp?
Yeah, I have a couple of them coming in now. Kenwin says yes. Afia says yes. Captain Ron says yes. Oh, no, Captain Ron says no. And Pauline says yes. Anand says yes. And that is it I have for now, Richard.
I have some more votes.
But some people changing their mind. I don't even know understanding the question. Do you have any question again, Richard?
It's up on the screen. Did you think the Prime Minister did well in her first post-cabinet media conference? Wendell, you have some votes?
Yep. Carol Guevara, yes. Joyce Phillip, yes. And yeah, they were late again yesterday, and 1 hour and a half late. Miguel Gonzalez, yes. Cheryl Seeley, yes. Nigel Morris, yes. Julia Batiste, yes. Slick Money Grip, yes. And Just a Great Guy says yes.
Okay, so I have Colin saying yes. Dre saying yes. And that is it.
All right, so you can continue to vote on the poll as we go to our 7 o'clock news. So the poll is simple to understand. Did you think that the Prime Minister did well in her first post-cabinet media conference? Continue to vote. We'll get back to the votes after the 7 o'clock news, which is up next on The Breakfast Show.
The news you need, the clarity you deserve. Local, regional, global. This is Net Radio News Now.
This is your news update for Friday, May 9th, 2025. I am Amanda Mitchell with New Era TT Radio and M&E TV. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar has outlined several priority actions following her first post-cabinet meeting yesterday. These include repealing the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority, scrapping the demerit point system, and introducing Stand Your Ground legislation. The Prime Minister also promised to make firearm processes more accessible to law-abiding citizens, stating that if you didn't want one, then you should just not apply. Other priorities include assessing the potential reopening of the Petrotrin refinery, reviewing state-funded housing allocations, capping the maximum price of vehicles for parliamentarians, and expanding the Children's Life Fund. She directed ministers not to request state-funded houses and announced plans to reduce state-funded security to redirect resources toward fighting crime. In related news, Persad-Bissessar has opted not to occupy either Whitehall or the Prime Minister's residence and diplomatic centre in St. Anne's, citing serious health, safety and structural concerns. Minister in the office of the Prime Minister, Barry Padarath, told reporters the Prime Minister has been working from her private home in Philippine, South Trinidad, while arrangements are being finalised. Padarath described both properties as being in dilapidated condition, with issues ranging from rotten wood to broken furniture. The opposition PNM has rejected these claims, maintaining Whitehall is in sound condition following extensive restoration completed in 2019. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost of Chicago has been elected the 267th Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, becoming the first American-born Pope in history. Now known as Pope Leo XIV, the 69-year-old leader was previously the prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops and president of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America. His election took place over 2 days inside the Sistine Chapel, following the death of Pope Francis on April 21st. In his first address from Vatican City, Pope Leo offered a blessing, saying, "This is the peace of the resurrected Christ, a humble and persevering peace, which comes from God. Peace be with you." Gary Griffith has officially resigned as political leader of the National Transformation Alliance, effective immediately. According to a statement released by the party, Griffith's departure comes after thoughtful reflection and in a spirit of accountability and integrity. Commander Norman Dindeel, the party's deputy leader, will take over as interim political leader, with internal elections for all positions scheduled for September 5th. Trinidad and Tobago has lost a beloved cultural icon with the passing of Wendy Kalicharan after a prolonged illness. Alongside her late husband Ivan, she co-founded Kalicharan Mass in 1983, a band that dominated San Fernando's carnival scene, winning Band of the Year 31 times. Kalicharan was also a 7-time San Fernando Queen and leaves behind a legacy now carried on by her children, Aaron and Ayana. You are listening to news on New Era TT Radio. In regional news, the government of Grenada is planning to remove the death penalty as a punishment for criminal offences. Crown Counsel Ray Thomas disclosed this during Grenada's Universal Period Review in Geneva earlier this week, stating that before a final decision is made, the public will be consulted for suggestions and recommendations. Thomas noted that the last execution in Grenada occurred in 1978, and while the Privy Council has ruled the death penalty as constitutional in Grenada, there has been a moratorium since that time. The government remains open to receiving international support and technical assistance to facilitate this important conversation. That concludes your news update for today. As we approach Mother's Day this Sunday, we'd like to extend warm wishes to all mothers, grandmothers, and mother figures. Your love, strength, and dedication make our communities and families stronger every day. I'm Amanda Mitchell for New Era TT Radio and M&E TV. The Breakfast Show with Wendell, Richard, and Sir Charles continues right after this short break.
That was news now. Stay informed with New Era TT Radio, Net Radio.
your voice is heard. Whether you're at work, on the go, or just taking a break, this is the perfect mix to keep you engaged, informed, and entertained. The Mid-Morning Mix and Mingle, weekdays, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on New Era TT Radio, Net Radio.
People often think about wellness in terms of physical health, nutrition, exercise, weight management, etc. But it is much more. Wellness is a holistic integration of physical, social, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, financial, occupational, and environmental state. Join our host, Terry Ann George, a health coach, author, mediator, and CEO of the Institute of Health and Fitness, as she discusses 8 elements with several professionals within the various dimensions of wellness. So let's kick burnout to the curb for good.
Join Terry and George for Dimensions. Fridays at 11 a.m. on New Era TT Radio, Net Radio.
Wake up with the Net Radio Breakfast Show. Rise and shine with Wendell Stevens and Richard Raghuwarsi, weekdays from 6 o'clock to 9 a.m. Start your day feeling good, energized, and informed as we tackle the biggest issues of the day, get you where you need to be on time, and keep you in the know about everything that matters. We bring you insightful discussions, expert analysis, and the latest updates so you're always ahead of the curve. Mornings matter. Your voice matters. And it all starts right here on New Era TT Radio, Net Radio. The Net Radio Breakfast Show, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. Wake up informed and stay ahead.
Stems. Yes, I can hear them saying, boys, stop living in the past. Where can I find that energy, the raw magic that comes down from the grassroots? Yes, I'm from a place where soca, the resounding power. You could feel anytime, any hour, sunshine or shower. You will feel it anywhere you look, and it read like a storybook. I come from when ground used to carry it. We used to carry it, but the ground we used to carry it. We used to carry it, but the ground we used to carry it. We used to carry it, but the ground we used to carry it. We used to carry it when Arima had it, Maturita had it, Santa Rosa had it, Dongaruka had it, in Mova had it, in Sawa had it, Soparia had it, look all over. Long John Fed was the vibes when West people live from Lincoln, John and the town to head to the playground and who the link inside. Arima and Central Tobago and Southside. The traffic on it some near morning down the by West Morning have cars parking like a garage. Me drinks bottle long like ruler in a cooler and we chipping up the mouse to for Canada. Them time the ground used to carry it. We used to carry it on the ground used to carry it. We used to carry it on the flag to the carry it. We used to carry it on the cooler to the carry it. We used to carry it when Central had it.
You're locked into Net Radio Breakfast Show. In your day with the best music and the
Downtown Fed was a safe space. 20,000.
So we welcome you back inside our number 2. Of course, remember this is the Breakfast Show. And before we get into the weather for today, let me just let you know that St. Dominic's Children's Home is having Sisters Can Cook happening on Saturday the 17th of May. It's going to be at the Holy Name Convent in Port of Spain. Starts at 5 p.m. and goes until 10 p.m. It's for a very, very worthy cause. It's just $300. And if you want tickets, you can call 624-7882. That's 624-7882. And of course, get your tickets for Sisters Can Cook. All right, so let's see what is happening with the weather today.
Good morning again, Trinidad and Tobago. This is your weather update for Friday, the 9th of May, 2025 from New Era TT Radio and M&E TV. Today we're expecting partly cloudy and breezy conditions interrupted at times by isolated light to moderate showers over most areas. There is a medium chance isolated thunderstorms could develop from late morning to evening, so be prepared if you're planning outdoor activities. Tonight will be partly cloudy with isolated showers in confined areas. An important reminder, in the event of heavy showers and thunderstorms, please expect gusty winds, street or flash flooding, and ponding in areas that are prone to flooding. For our neighbors in the remainder of the Lesser Antilles, tonight will be mostly fair, but for some isolated showers. Tomorrow they can expect mostly fair and breezy conditions, becoming partly cloudy at times with isolated light to moderate showers and a chance of the isolated afternoon thunderstorm. Temperature-wise, Trinidad can expect a maximum of 32 degrees Celsius today with a minimum of 24 degrees Celsius. In Tobago, the maximum will reach 30 degrees Celsius with a minimum of 26 degrees Celsius. With humidity factored in, the heat index will make it feel like 36 degrees Celsius in Trinidad and 34 degrees Celsius in Tobago, so please remember to stay hydrated throughout the day. Sea conditions are slight to moderate with wave heights of 1 to 1.5 meters in open waters and up to 1 meter in sheltered areas. The sun rose this morning at 5:45 and will set at 6:19 this evening. For those planning maritime activities today, high tides in Port of Spain will occur at 1:53 early this morning and 2:37 this afternoon, with low tides at 8:18 this morning and 8:18 this evening. In Scarborough, high tides will be at 1:43 early this morning and 2:27 this afternoon, with low tides at 8:06 this morning and 8:09 this evening. Looking ahead to tomorrow, Saturday the 10th of May, expect partly cloudy conditions at times with a few isolated light to moderate showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. This has been your weather update for today. Remember to keep an umbrella handy as those thunderstorms could develop later today, and please exercise caution if you encounter any flooding. From all of us at New Era TT Radio and M&E TV, have a safe and pleasant Friday.
RSRR Productions continues with Married and Mischievous. It's been held over for 2 more nights at Cipriani College due to overwhelming public demand on Saturday the 10th of May at 8:30 p.m. and Sunday the 11th at 6:30 p.m. It's Mother's Day weekend, so treat your mom to this fantastic adult comedy. Yes, Married and Mischievous. Tickets available at usual outlets and at the Cipriani College box office from Wednesday the 7th of May, 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily. This is not just a play, it's an experience.
S&H Rumbox, 137 Western Main Road, St. James, for all your retail and wholesale needs for alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. Call us at 686-0599 or visit us at 137 Western Main Road, St. James. S&H Rumbox, drinking out of the box.
Great news, Caribbean. The Breakfast Show is now on M&E TV, bringing you entertaining conversations, vital information, and influential perspectives throughout Trinidad and Tobago and across the Caribbean region. Catch us on Digicel Channel 20, Flow Channel 111, Amplia Channel 117, Blink Channel 109, Trico Channel 154, and Airlink Channel 10. The Breakfast Show connects with the Caribbean and Trinidad and Tobago like never before. We're now on M&E TV.
Of course, we are back. We are back for the second hour of the Breakfast Show. And of course, we'll just be closing off in terms of our votes before we get into that interview with Gary Griffith, who's already on standby. Wendell, I don't know if you have any other votes for our poll this morning. And just in case you didn't know what our poll this morning was it? Did you think the Prime Minister did well in her first post-cabinet media conference? What says you? Do we have any additional votes, Wendell?
Yes, we do. We have to change Captain Ron's vote from a no to a yes. He called me from all the way wherever he's flying his airplane right now in the world. He said Sir Charles read it wrong. So it's yes. He voted yes. Stick money grip, not stick money grip. Finbar Collins says no. I'm totally against the demerit point system, retrograde. Ingrid from Tucson says yes. Sharon says yes. Kurt Edwards didn't vote. He just said all the best. Morning, Kurt. Jasodra Ram Calawan says yes. Adonna Clark, yes. Michael Robinson, yes. Jaron Joseph, yes. She did very well. Sterling Francois says yes. Annie Bunyan just says good morning, Richard. Well, good morning. Susan Jessup says yes. Diana Hamill says yes. And Susan Jessup also voted yes. Brent Hackshaw is yes. So those are our votes this morning. And we have lots of new names on the platform this morning.
And Sir Charles, do you have any votes via WhatsApp?
Yeah, I just have a couple more. And well, sorry, Captain Ron. Going through that happens sometimes.
Votes.
So right. Right. So Frank said yes to the poll. Frank says yes to the poll. And Marcus said yes. It was a breath of fresh air. And I have a message for Wendell. Unknown person says that if you will be at Rumbucks today, a lady says she wants to meet you.
I'll be there later today. I have to recover from no sleep and a little coughing this morning. So give me time. I'll be down there later today though. My sisters and I, we are always there. Family and I, we are always there.
All right, so that's it for our poll this morning. And of course, we had 47 people voting on the poll this morning. And the poll was, did you think that...
Add two more. Otto and Benjamin, yes. Marcia Rock, yes. That's it. We cut it up there.
All right. So we had 49 votes on the poll this morning. Did you think that the Prime Minister did well in the post-cabinet conference yesterday? And of the 49 people, 48 of you said yes. You thought she did well. One person said no, but the vast majority of you said yes. You thought she did well yesterday in terms of her press conference. So that's it for our poll this morning. And of course, we move straight on to our Let's Talk segment, and we have none other than Captain Gary Griffith joining us. So good morning, Gary Griffith, and thanks for joining us on the Breakfast Show this morning.
Good morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning to your viewers.
Good morning, Gary. Morning. Thanks for joining us. Well, just last week we were introducing you as political leader of the NTA. I don't think we can do so anymore.
Correct. That is correct.
Yes. So you've resigned as political leader of the NTA. Did you also leave the party? Did you also resign from the party, or does the party still exist?
No, well, the party is not a one-man party, so hopefully it still functions. I just stepped down as the political leader from the NTA. I may very well, I'm not too sure what I will do in the very near future if I will step down altogether from the NTA and from politics. But I think it was the appropriate thing to do. There's no hidden agenda. The things that I've been seeing and hearing on social media, you'll swear, Gary Griffith going here, Gary Griffith doing this. This is just about a straightforward case that the way I was trained as a leader, being in the military, being a politician, being a commissioner of police. I've been a manager and involved with national sporting teams for over a decade at CSC Games, Pan Am Games, Commonwealth Games, World Cup qualifiers. You lead a team, you're not successful, you do the right thing, and you step down. Now that's all it is. I think it is the appropriate thing to do. I wish most politicians think the same way. They don't. But my concept is, if I was not successful, we were not successful, I take responsibility, and I have stepped down to allow the party to continue to move forward in a different direction. I will provide support if required, and that is all it is. It seems so that there's some hidden agenda. It's not. That is what should happen. Someone who holds a position, you do not win. And let me tell you, this is not about me questioning my capability. I think if Barack Obama takes over the NTA, they would have lost their deposits. That's just the way it is of our political system. Kamla Persad-Bissessar was in the same boat as myself in 1991. She went up against the UNC with the NAR and she lost her deposit. And then 4 years later, she went up for the UNC in the same safari, and from losing her deposit, she got about 9,000 votes. That's just how it is. It's a two-party system. And persons 550,000 out of almost 600 voted for that and there's nothing wrong with that. We have it in the United States, but I just provided the opportunity for people to have a third choice. And then I walked the length and breadth from Diego Martin to Arima, from Point Fortin to Chabonas East. No animosity, no bad blood. Everybody loves Gary, but I can't vote for you, because if I vote for you, it will split the vote. If I vote for you, it will cause UNC to win. If I vote for you, it will cause PNM to win. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think anybody could argue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's now in your past in terms of at least the leadership for now, in terms of the leadership of the NTA. And before we get into the substance of what was said in the media conference yesterday, because you're a security expert, so you must have an opinion on some of what was said. But before we get into that, what do you have any plans, immediate plans for the future in terms of where you see yourself fitting into the political landscape, or just the landscape of contributing to Trinidad and Tobago? Because you are a big voice in the society. So do you see yourself, or are you still mulling on it?
Well, I think for the very near future, I want to put focus on where it should have been all the time over the last few months, which was my family. It was very difficult trying to cut myself in pieces, trying to deal with running up a general election campaign, and then looking at the situation with Nicole. It wasn't the best thing. It was very difficult for me. So now it allows me the opportunity to put more emphasis in looking at seeing what can be done to assist her and my family. It doesn't take away the possibility that I can multitask. I have always said that I am willing to serve my country as my country sees fit. Even when Dr. Rowley and I were at loggerheads this same time last year, I said I was willing to provide him with the support because his Minister of National Security was totally clueless. And just by way of that, people blame Keith Rowley and Stuart Young and all that. I personally think Fitzgerald Hines was a main aspect that caused the PNM to lose. Everybody said to themselves, listen, if that is the one thing that the PNM had going for them in 2020 is like they said, we didn't do too well, but we gave away Gary Griffith. I never thought I'd be a centerfold in my life. I was a centerfold in the PNM manifesto. And it worked. It got them over the edge. This time around, Fitzgerald Hines, based on ignorance, mismanagement.
But Gary Fitzgerald Hines wasn't a minister. He wasn't even an MP, a candidate in this election.
No, but his decisions, Wendell, his decisions contributed to the one thing the PNM had under control, that the country felt, all right, we're okay with crime. Gary was there, whatever. And when he made his decision based on false information, based on stupidity, you lost it. And you went back to the earlier Christopher and everything. And from the one thing that the PNM felt, okay, at least we have that covered. They made that choice and they paid the price for that choice by going out of their way. And it's not just the PNM, by the way. I remember it was Jayanti and Anand Ramlogan who actually were the ones who took the state to court to have me removed as Commissioner of Police, not the PNM. So when people try to blame this one and that one, but Fitzgerald Hines had a big part to play in it. I think he will go down in history as probably the worst minister in anything. But having said that, my take is that the same way it is that I was willing to give free advice to Dr. Rowley, I am a phone call away. I drafted the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Home Affairs. In fact, it's supposed to be the Ministry of Home Affairs and not Homeland Security. That's something by itself I could discuss. So if it is that they need help or guidance as to how I drafted it, I am a phone call away to give free advice.
Before we get into it, how is Nicole doing now?
She's doing fine. She just did a PET scan a couple of days ago, so we're just keeping our fingers crossed and hope for the best. Waiting on the results in a few days. But she's doing well. I wish to thank the enormous support we had throughout the country, which is good. It says so much about our country. We're political opponents, but we are not enemies, which is a good sign. Sometimes politicians go out of their way to deliberately divide the country in the hope for success. At least in my situation, there was only one person who attacked my wife and my family, and he's now in Parliament in Tristan. That is how it works in this country.
How do you feel about actually? Let's get that elephant out of the room. How do you feel about Mr. Alexander being appointed a government minister?
Well, it's not for me to decide, and that's the sad thing to everyone. I'm being blunt about it, and this is not about Philip Alexander. Yeah, this is not about Philip Alexander. Do you know ministers? When you select a CEO or a captain to be in charge of 100 men in the defense force, or a commissioner of police to be in charge of 7,000 people, or a CEO to be in charge of a business, you have to look at the qualification, the training, the capability for the person to lead. It's only in politics that you could put the dumbest person because you have to fit him in because he or she became a member of parliament. And you put these people as a minister without any training, knowledge, or qualification in the ministry. That is madness, and that's what kills a country, because you select them as candidates to be a member of parliament, And now you have to realize, okay, now I have to give everybody a nice cushy position so that they will not cross the floor and they will not cause me problems. And you put square pegs in round holes without any knowledge, qualification, or experience in the field. It's only in politics this happens. It doesn't happen in any arm in the private sector. It doesn't happen in the military. It doesn't happen anywhere else. And then when we get bad results because the leader doesn't have a clue. We had a minister of sport who boasted she never kicked a line. We had a minister of finance who recently, it seemed that he from Form 4 accounts in St. Mary's College, he dropped out. Colin Imbert, good morning to you, sir. And it goes on both sides. We have people who have absolutely no knowledge in the field. When you become a minister to have a $3 billion budget with several thousand people under your command, that is so dangerous. And then when it is you hear $15 billion we have deficit, you wonder why. That is why.
I had to watch this St. Mary's College School, you know. They're giving us some good ones, but they're giving us some really bad ones too. I had to keep my eye on St. Mary's College.
There he goes down the rabbit
Philip
hole.
Alexander was in St. Mary's College too.
Yes, he did. So, Gary, I just wanted to get back to something you touched on already. The issue of splitting the Ministry of National Security into the Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Homeland Security. What drives that decision? Because it was a decision that I wasn't sure what the purpose was. So maybe you could clarify, because you said you kind of drafted it. What is the reasoning for that?
It was a brilliant decision. It was a brilliant idea because I did it.
St. Mary's again.
So seriously, so pre-2010, when she was campaigning, I was there with her, giving her different things because she wanted things out of the box. So I drafted the Ministry of Justice for her. And unfortunately, Minister Volney totally lost it. He did nothing. When you ask what was the value of the Ministry of Justice for the 5 years, nothing. No fault of Kamla, no fault of myself. He just did not read the script. The Ministry of Justice was designed to deal specifically with the prison service. So what I realized is that we have 20,000 law enforcement officials under one ministry, and we have to be responsible for immigration, for intelligence gathering, for the defense force, for policing, for the prison service. Ridiculous. It doesn't work that way. So I drafted the Ministry of Justice to deal specifically with the problems we have in the prison, the criminal justice system. We have very high recidivism rates because of low rehabilitation. So because of that, we were able to turn that Ministry of Justice to deal with improving that criminal justice system. The Ministry of National Security, again, it was cut into two specific ministries: the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Homeland Security. In that Ministry of Defense, sorry, 1 minute.
Somebody puppy giving trouble.
Yes, that minute. Yeah, you got one shut up and that's it. Hey. So the problem is it's not the Ministry of Homeland Security, it was the Ministry of Home Affairs. But she's the Prime Minister. I just drafted it. She can do what she wants. She's the boss. She owns it. But the Ministry of Homeland Security is a US term. That Ministry of Homeland Security is to deal with border protection, to deal with terrorism. That is exactly why I drafted the Ministry of Defense. So persons internationally could believe that there's duplication. It is not. The Ministry of Defense was drafted specifically to deal with border protection, the formation of a border protection unit. For the first time, I said to change customs from the Ministry of Finance. We had nerds as ministers for the last 4 years, 4 decades, that have continued to put customs under the Ministry of Finance because it is an income generator. Totally. Yes. Totally unacceptable, because customs plays a very big part into the Ministry of Defense. So now that we have the Ministry of Defense involving the Ministry of involving customs, immigration, and the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, and that now we can actually utilize the Defense Force in a proper manner. The Ministry of Home Affairs, not Homeland Security. And the reason I drafted it as that, I did research. India has a Ministry of Home Affairs. Guyana has a Ministry of Home Affairs. Trinidad and Tobago, in fact, had a Ministry of Home Affairs decades ago.
I remember.
And England, the United Kingdom, they have a Ministry of Home Office. So that's why I drafted as the Ministry of Home Affairs to deal specifically with law enforcement, internal security, policing, hard targeting, deterrence. There's little things that need to be dealt with, like the SSA, for example. The SSA has to deal, you cannot put it under one specific ministry, because intelligence gathering involves the Ministry of Home Affairs, but also the Ministry of Defense. So and then the Police Marine Branch, they may now become assigned or to the Ministry of Defense, because they are dealing with the maritime security wall. So those are the things that, again, I have it here. It was drafted by myself. I think the individuals who lead, they may not be 100% experts in the field, but it has to do with leadership. If it is that they get the right people around them, those would be successful ministries.
And that probably would have been my next question in terms of the people who are put to head those ministries. Now, Minister Sturge has no background in military or anything, as far as I'm aware. I know he's been a successful criminal attorney. And of course, Minister Alexander, he had a career in the police service. I don't want to say it was a stellar career, but of course he was very popular in the police service at the point in time. Do you think those are the best people to head those respective ministries?
No, well, you'll take, usually in a Ministry of Defense, the person who leads a Ministry of Defense is usually somebody who was a previous Chief of Defense Staff, a General, an Admiral, because it's a different type of vocabulary, it's a different mindset, how we deal with the defense of a country. On most occasions, it doesn't mean it is mandatory. As I said, if he gets the right people around him, I am trying to get, we have over 100 retirees, officers from the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. And that comprises individuals not just from, not just UNC people. You have the Ansel Antoines, the Eddie Dillons, the John Sandys, the Carl Alfonsos. It's a number of colonels, retired captains like myself, and majors, about 100 of us retirees. It's to get them now to work with Minister Sturge, get them to understand the mistakes that have been made in the Defense Force for the last few decades that we could not change because we were busy trying to run the Defense Force on a day-to-day basis. So he needs to deal more with those retired officers for them to explain what is required. I also drafted to her in that Ministry of Defense to change the age stipulation. When I did research to 60 other countries, with the majority of our military personnel retired 45 and 47. That is madness. And then after, when they go out, the only thing they can look for is a security work because of their experience in that field. So all of that was all part of the package I drafted for that Ministry of Defense. Minister Alexander, yes, he may not have been a very senior person in the police service. He was probably senior middle management, but it does not take away. My thing is that give them the opportunity, give them that support. And if they have the right people around them, what I have is a template. It would work running these three ministries in that time. And then the three ministries, they now join together under the National Security Council to have a unification of securing the nation. So the individuals, if they get the right people around them, they will be able to fill the breach of the possible shortcomings they may have in that particular ministry.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Prime Minister also talked about stand your ground legislation and firearm accessibility, and that we were going to make it more accessible to law-abiding citizens. And she said, there was some criticism about it, and some people are against it. And she made a statement to the effect of, well, if you don't want one, don't apply. But obviously, they're kind of related in terms of the stand your ground legislation and ease of firearm accessibility. So what's your take on how that kind of law, which of course has been criticized in some of the states in the United States, where I assume it's mimicking that law, how do you think that's going to work in a Trinidad and Tobago context? And do you support that kind of legislation in a Trinidad and Tobago context?
Yeah, and that's why, when you all did that poll, I don't know why you'll do a poll, how did the Prime Minister do in her first speech. Kamla Persad-Bissessar is not an OJT. She's probably one of the most brilliant politicians, similar to Keith Rowley. When you hear Keith Rowley speak, the man doesn't even look at a speech. He's that good. He's that brilliant. Same with Kamla Persad-Bissessar. So for you to do a poll, I am shocked that one person could say that she didn't do well. They will always do well. I can't recall a bad speech by Keith Rowley or Kamla Persad-Bissessar, except of course when Keith Rowley trips because of the UNC and he goes haywire. But so she did the same thing. She was brilliant as a politician to tell the whole country, guns forward. It's like Oprah Winfrey, you get a gun, you get a gun, you get a gun. And it wins the hearts and minds of those persons who want to stain their finger. Now that she's a Prime Minister, she's not going to put it willy-nilly to give away a firearm as easy as you could get doubles on a Saturday morning. That is not going to happen. She obviously has to do research, and if she speaks to myself and others, we will explain to her it's a tale of two political parties where there was one that had an extreme. Fitzgerald Hines, I never saw a man so fearful of guns being given to law-abiding citizens. The man went out of his way and he misled the country when he said Gary Griffith was giving it in a manner that was totally unacceptable. No, the commissioners before me were clueless. Most of them never held a firearm. They never went on a range. They did not understand that is your role and function. It took a lot of work for me to do what I did. It wasn't me doing it willy-nilly. But so we had one government and commissioners before me that figured giving out 200 firearms a year was enough. Totally ridiculous in this modern time, where you had 35,000 applicants. So that means it would have taken about 170 years for the 35,000 applicants.
But Gary, the issue of FUL is not up to any minister or prime minister. It's up to the commissioner of police.
No, well, I'll come to that, Wendell. Yes or no? Yes or no? I'll tell you why. Because remember, when I was giving it out, it was the Minister Hines who started, and Keith Rowley, who started complaining about me giving out firearms. So they were out of place because I adhered to the law. I did what was required, and they lied. Remember, they misled the country when they said that guns were given out. 3 years later, nobody charged, nobody questioned, nobody arrested. They lied. And Hines is in court for it as well, because you misled the country when he said that we were giving out automatic firearms. They lied, and they paid the political price. So,
but it still wasn't up to them. It hasn't shifted, or is it intended to shift away?
Well, that's the commissioner, Wendell. So
they're probably going to be bringing in some sort of legislation that tweaks the workflow. That tweaks the workflow.
Exactly, and I agree with it to the point, because what happens is that the commissioner of police alone decides. So if I wanted, I could have given out firearms to every citizen in this country, and nobody could have done anything. That is madness. Likewise, commissioners before me, because they're not operational, they're not tactical, they love wearing gabardine and staying on the 6th floor. 200 firearms a year was all they were giving out. I now decided to give out 1,000 to law-abiding citizens per annum. That's 3 a day. That is a lot. But I couldn't do more. If you go more than that, and this is why I want to advise the Prime Minister, you go more to what I was given, you're going to water it down. Those 3 a day had to do immense due diligence, background check, speaking to the spouse, checking your finances, psychometric testing, speaking to the neighbors, making sure you're not an alcoholic. And that was why I could boast that the 3,000 firearms given out to law-abiding citizens in my 3 years, and the 3,000 given to military, to law enforcement officials, not one was lost, not one was stolen, not one was used for a crime, and dozens of lives were saved. Every time you go over 1,000 per annum, you're going to water it down, and then you're going to start getting man shoot their wife, person have it fired in a negligent discharge in residence nightclub, he forgot it in a toilet, he was drunk and he used it in the wrong way. You have to be very careful. And that is why I said, even though you have 25,000 applicants, anytime you go more than 1,000 per annum, you're going to start watering down. And when you water it down, there's going to be the negative to it. So you can't.
So here the flip side of that. Richard, let me just develop this. Here the flip side of that. I hear you with that, and I do believe more guns might have more shootings. But don't you also believe that with people now will always be on their guard, because they will always feel now that person who they are going to rob or they're going to attack might actually have a legitimate fire. Don't you think that will also deter people?
Yeah, but Wendell, but you see, they also have the problem because of that same perception. Look at what happens in the United States. I have to draw a balance, and the balance has to be drawn in. Not the Fitzgerald Hines and Earl Christopher don't give guns to anybody. But in the same way, you can't say, well, let's start giving out 10,000 firearms per annum. Because when you start watering down, when you lose a firearm, and that same firearm is now used to go down St. James and shoot 6 people. 6 people have now been killed because you gave out a legal firearm. You have to be very careful. So, and that's the point. I would love to give firearms to each citizen who deserves it. But the due diligence is so intense to make sure that the right person gets it. Anytime you start to give out more than 3 per day, which is what I did, it is going to diminish the background check, the due diligence. We actually formed a firearm audit committee to be able to, after it was checked by the officers, I'll give you a quick example. They approved a firearm for an individual. And then because I formed a committee to deal with a background of the background, we found out the guy had a fake ID card and he was 24 years old instead of 25. Things like that. It's so that if you don't do those things and you start watering it down to make it easier means you're going to diminish the possibility of persons using it in the wrong manner. And that's why, as I said, I gave out 6,000. 6,000 is a lot in 3 years. 1,000 for law enforcement officials, 1,000 for citizens. You have to be careful, and it must not be automatic firearms as well. It should, and there's also another thing. I realize 90% of people with firearms, they've never held their firearm or gone on a range. So you want a gun, but you don't know how to clear it. You're gonna stoppage. You're going to shoot it in the wrong manner, which goes back to the stand your ground. The stand your ground comment that she made. It is she saw that 79% of the country loved Gary Griffith because of the things that I was doing, and she realized Gary giving out firearms lifted his popularity. So it's something that she's doing as well. But in the same manner that I did that, I was demanding that if you want a gun, you've got to be responsible. I was mandating that you must go on a range once a year. I want to make sure you know to clean your firearm, that you can have an accurate shot. If you have a firearm and stand your ground, and you decide to shoot at someone and you miss, it is now going to diminish the possibility of you surviving, and you can actually shoot the wrong person. So all of those things is that's why I put the FUL card, and old McDonald Jacob foolishly shut it down. That card had a chip on it to demand that we will check to make sure that you go on a range to train. That you.
We had somebody here named Old McDonald Jacob. I don't remember that name.
But Gary, the issue of the stand your ground, because it seems as if in certain things like with national security, it seems, I'm just saying that's what it seems like, that this current government leans a little bit to the right and to what the Republican sort of sense is about self-defense, stand your ground legislation, which are all Republican initiatives, the freedom to own a gun, which is also a Republican initiative, supported by the Republicans because of the gun lobby in the United States. It seems as if there is a leaning towards that sort of philosophy with regard to the current government in terms of self-defense of you and your life and your property. Stand your ground. How is that going to work in a situation? And I know you have talked about it previously. At least I've heard you in a couple of interviews talking about stand your ground. So can that work successfully without any negative outcomes in terms of a Trinidad and Tobago and a Caribbean kind of context?
Yeah, definitely. Again, it's just that we must not piggyback exactly to the stand your ground in the United States. I'm sure all three of us right now in this video, at one time or the other, we jumped over the neighbor's yard to steal a mango when we were young, or go to collect a football. You don't stand your ground to be one that I see somebody in my yard, I have a right to shoot them. That is not what stand your ground is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about making sure that your life could be protected. So there are certain things that she used. Remember, I was her right hand during local government election, and she used it, empty the clip, rack it up, light it up. She liked it. She wanted to be a Gary kind of thing. But you have to be very careful now. Now you're in power. Now you're the Prime Minister. You have to be very careful, because the things about empty the clip, and this is where people need to be properly trained. When you have a firearm, you shoot someone and you neutralize the individual. Anytime that individual is no longer a threat to you, and you continue to shoot that person, you have now committed murder. And those are the stand your ground that doesn't protect you from that. So I think what she wants to do, and I agree with her, is that the scales of justice have been tilted so much over supporting criminal elements and law-abiding citizens. She wants to tilt it back to have the scale of justice balanced. And by doing that, we don't want it to go overboard to the point that children going in someone's yard could just be shot at because you didn't know if that person was coming to kill you. You must have just cause to justify you using a firearm. It has to be, the good thing with her trying to change the law, right now, persons with a legal firearm, they will see somebody threatening them and coming up to them, and they're going to second guess because they don't know, if I shoot this person, if it is, I am going to be charged. What makes it worse is the police have gone back to the stupid system. Somebody has a firearm, they're shooting at me and my wife. I have shot them and I have killed them. You season my firearm and I'm not getting it back for a few years. And now the person who has been killed, his associates are now going to target you. At the first 48 hours, you could automatically pinpoint that the person acted in self-defense. Give the man back his gun. But you seize the firearm, and for years you're keeping it there, and the person who did his job in the right manner to protect his family. So all of this would be the changes that I would strongly recommend. You use your firearm for the right manner, it should be returned. Persons who have firearms must be trained on a regular basis. Persons who have a firearm must understand the law. The law is not one that if somebody jumps in the yard to collect a football, you have a right to shoot them. The law you must understand that if you shoot someone and the person is neutralized, which means the person is down and out, you cannot go over him and empty the clip to continue shooting. That is murder. So I think she will need to calm down on her words, and she would, because she would be given the advice by the qualified experts, hopefully in security and in law, to show that stand your ground should not be one that we could empty the clip anytime somebody just jumps in their yard. It is really to protect persons and give them the right now to defend themselves and their family.
Gary, I want to go back to one point you just made, because, and I'm asking, is it subjective? Because you said that when, like, if a licensed firearm holder shoots someone in defense of what they consider was a threat to them, that their firearm is seized. Is that subjective to the officer who is investigating, or is that the law? Is it law that you must take the firearm from the person?
Yeah. It is a standard operational procedure, because you need to verify that the weapon was used. You need to verify the caliber. You need to verify if the weapon was legal. If the weapon belongs to the individual, you need to do ballistic testing of the weapon to verify if those were the rounds that were used to shoot the person. So it must be taken. It happens in the police service. Anytime a police officer will shoot someone, his weapon is immediately taken. Check, ballistic testing done. But as soon as you realize the person acted within the law, it must be given back to them. You can't have a person fire. And that's why many persons are second. They say, what if I fire this wrong? And it means that I'm going to lose my gun. That can't be right. So those are the things of stand your ground that I will hope that she will shift. And then going back to an important point, gentlemen, going back to the Commissioner of Police. This Commissioner of Police allowed 2,000 firearms per annum. 1,000 for law enforcement, 1,000 for civilians. After Gary left, McDonald, Jacob, and Ulla Christopher again, you saw Ulla Christopher on the range. She didn't even know how to cock the weapon. They've gone back to 200 per annum. So the sole purpose, the sole selection for issue of firearms is the Commissioner of Police. So when you have the Stephen Williams, the McDonald, Jacob, the Ulla Christopher, say people, law-abiding citizens don't need gun. That is their right. The law has to be changed. You're not going to get a Gary Griffith every time that is going to have the thinking to realize people have a right to defend themselves. We have to change the law to stop the Commissioner of Police being the sole authority, because you might get another mad NYPD commissioner who comes here and decides to give firearms to anybody with a certificate of character. He could give out 100,000 firearms tomorrow. You don't want that either. So the law should be changed, but it is a committee to have the process to select. Because look at Fitzgerald Hines. He attacked me because of his ignorance and understanding that citizens had a right to get firearms. And every firearm I was issuing, there was due diligence, there was background check, there was no corruption, nothing at all. But he jumped in there with his fast self because he has a problem with people getting firearms. Why is the same person, by the way, that sent a list to me for 12 people to get a gun? Hypocrisy, not?
But this whole issue of firearms, because I mean, this has been a long-standing issue that you've heard in the police service. In fact, you've heard comments on the ground. I don't know how real it is that it is the unofficial pension of the Commissioner of Police. That's what you used to hear on the ground. You say that on the ground.
Yes.
You never knew whether that was real or not, whether people were actually paying for firearm licenses or not, just to get a firearm. Because anytime there's a stopgap or there is inefficiency in a system, people try to work around it.
And the research I had, at no time has there been one Commissioner of Police before or after me that I can pinpoint that was involved in that. However, as soon as I arrived, I understood three main aspects of corruption in the police service was overtime. $100 million per annum I cut, with about 250 odd officers claiming they were working 24 hours a day, 30 days a month. And those who signed it were approving it. So that was one. The other one was using the vehicles to moonlight and to escort trucks and all of that. The third had to do with firearms. And it's not from the office of the Commissioner of Police. It came from the stations. I was littered with reports of persons being told that your application remains in a station for years because the officer at the station is blackmailing you, extortion, whatever.
Okay, that's
something to move it forward.
And that is why I mashed up a massive corruption campaign, because what I said is, listen, you got 3 months. After that 3 months, it comes to the firearm section, and they now will do the background due diligence. You have 3 months because if somebody didn't want to pay, their first thing they will write is that there's no threat to your life. That is not justification not to give someone a firearm. There's nothing stating there must be a threat to your life. So when I listened to the nonsense that they were sending, they were putting that mostly because the person didn't want to pay. And they said, well, if there's no threat to your life, I don't have to give you a gun. That is not the justification for a firearm. Is that based on who you are, based on where you are, based on your job, you need to protect yourself, not a threat, not that there's no threat to your life, or not, but somebody threatening to kill you. So they were using that as an excuse not to give people a firearm. When I pulled that out, I stopped a multi-million-dollar enterprise, and sadly enough, what happens over with all governments, certain police officers had the ears of politicians, and the politicians foolishly took the bait. When it is you have a man, a Barrington could write a report with no data, no evidence, no document, give it to our Prime Minister, and he could foolishly give that to Persad and say, look, I get this from a civilian. The man is not even holding a position. This is a civilian, gives a Prime Minister a document. And he sees that and uses that as an example, as an excuse to give to Persad, who, by the way, have in court as well, because she had no authority to withdraw the merit list without the approval of the Police Service Commission. So she did that on her own. So she will be dealt with me as well.
Well, that begs my next question. Can we expect Gary Griffith to once again reapply for the position of Commissioner of Police?
Let me tell you something, gentlemen. On this situation, good point. The whole thing has been totally messed up again by the politicians. When Dwayne Gibbs was selected as Commissioner of Police, he beat Stephen Williams and others hands down because it was international qualified experts by Penn State. When Gary Griffith applied in 2018 by international experts, I got 82%. No, Ulla Christopher got 52%. She didn't come in the top 20. Somebody, Heinz, and again, your boy Heinz, decided to change the law.
Try to avoid calling names when you come in.
But when it was Fitzgerald Heinz, they changed the law to put that only persons who would, the Police Service Commission will be the ones who would now assess the individuals. You can't do that. The Police Service Commission, they are not trained, qualified, or experienced in law enforcement. When we had the experts, Ulla Christopher didn't come in the top 20. As soon as they put it to the Police Service Commission, the Maxine Atong, but they selected her. They must bear responsibility, not Ulla. Don't blame Ulla. She didn't put herself on us. Judith Jones. You have no qualification in law enforcement. How you decide to put this person as number one? We need to go back to the international experts, because I'll tell you another important point, gentlemen. And this is
answer my question yet, Gary. Will you be interested in applying?
Well, the point is, it could only happen if it is impartial. When you have politicians,
I mean, if the provisions change for the application.
Because that is the point I'm telling you. When it is the experts card, I got 30% more than Ulla Christopher. As soon as they move it to the locals, who are appointed by a president, who was appointed by a prime minister. So there's no independent police service commission. You were handpicked by a president who was handpicked by a politician. So all they have to do is give Ulla Christopher, whoever you want, 50 out of 50, give everybody else 0 out of 50 in the interview, and that person comes first. That cannot work. So you're going to get it wrong. You will get more Ulla Christophers unless we go back to Penn State and international experts. And I think that's what Stuart Young was going with, in that direction, to change the system. The Police Service Commission can assess the commissioner because you have an idiot's guide. Finance, crime reduction, public trust and confidence, that they can do. But they do not have the capability to select because they're not qualified to do so. And when you do that, you will get the Ulla Christophers.
I just wanted to ask one more question, because of course we're coming close to the end of the interview. The issue of the firearms licenses and what the Prime Minister is suggesting in terms of accessibility, do you think that she's going to take it out of the purview of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, create a new approval board? You will still have some connections to the TTPS because they'll have to do some sort of background checks in terms of people wanting a firearm. But do you think she's going to actually take it away from the TTPS?
I hope so. I'm going to say I hope so. Let me take that back. The police will have the major part to play for the background check, the due diligence, speaking to the spouse, checking the finances, psychometric tests. But it should not be the commissioner being the sole person. That will take away any possibility of corruption, because now you have a board. So when it is 3 or 4 persons, they become part of the process. Or the commissioner selects, but it must go to the Minister of National Security for final approval. Something like that. They cannot be commissioner being the sole person, because if you do that, we're going to go back to what we have now, 200 firearms plan.
But Gary, efficient system. Don't
let him go.
Are you willing to take some calls, Gary?
Yeah, sure.
So we can open up our lines. So Charles, be on standby. 281-1315, 281-1315. We'll take a couple minutes of calls before we hit 8 a.m.
If I'm not mistaken, Gary, when we had interviewed you sometime in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, that when women apply for FUL, do they ask the spouse?
No.
Exactly. Exactly my point.
Well, But it should change. It should change.
They don't ask the spouse of a woman.
How the document was written, but I think I may have I said that for the women, talk to the husband and make sure the husband could approve, please. Because what you don't want is for it to go the other way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can't be right.
But you see, remember that how those things were drafted was in the 1960s and 70s. So the only concept is that the man will shoot the woman.
And that is the balance that we have lived with for years.
Very worried with that provision.
No, women shooting men too. That's the reality.
You see, also, by the way, gentlemen, there's also the concept. I mean, Gary Griffith drafted it several years ago, and the government refused pepper spray. There are things that can be given to persons. Sometimes you just need escape valve. You don't need to. Pepper spray has proven to be very effective to protect many persons from rape, kidnapping, robbery, or so forth. Up to now, after several years, they still can't approve for persons just to go over the counter and buy pepper spray.
I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's something I don't understand. Good morning,
well,
caller.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why quickly. The excuse was that criminals could use it. I would prefer that criminals use pepper spray than a firearm.
Exactly.
Good morning, caller.
Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Griffith. I want to endorse 99% of the things that you said there. I just want to add to that suggestion. I hope the Prime Minister is listening to your suggestion because they are very good. That along with I would suggest not one time a year to visit the range, but two, and a sit-down classroom to guide potential FUL holders about the use of force, how to use your firearm, when you should use it, and that illustration they gave there about a youth jumping in your yard to pick mango, and you feel you could sit down in your living room, see him through the window and shoot him in your yard, is an excellent example of how not to use your firearm. And we need to have a sit-down classroom to guide people of the booklet, because I see people get firearms users license, went and buy firearm and never went and sit down in a course, never went and go on a range, just get firearm, right? And that is craziness as far as an ex-military person. That is just madness.
Okay, thank
you.
Yeah, General, I'll give you a quick example again. We have a simulation theater in the police service, and it should be done for all firearm holders. So you have the simulation theater with scenarios. So you have the person arguing with you, and you're arguing back with the person, and the person says, "See, I'm fed up with you," and he puts his hand like this, and you fire, and then we stop the screen, and you fire the person, and say, "Continue." The man is now pulling out his phone to videotape you. You have not committed manslaughter. All of these things, the person has to be trained. A firearm is enormous responsibility. If you don't have that patience, that understanding, it could become a liability rather than an asset.
Caller, good morning.
A blessed good morning to you all, gentlemen. A blessed good morning to you, Mr. Griffith. I'd like to say thank you for your service, especially when I was commissioner. I had everybody on the toes. Thank you for that. Thank you for the words that you said this morning. I like the pointers that you made and whatnot. So I just want to say to all future endeavors, sir, I wish you all God's blessings, and you'll tell Mrs. Griffith, Happy Mother's Day for me. And the whole of Trinidad and Tobago, I bless you. We all have to be on hands right now, because crime is about me and you, not about government.
All right, thank you very much, Paula. Mr. Griffith, can I ask a question? Recently, in the Point 14 Borough celebrations, I think it was either a soldier or a member of the regiment. I can't remember exactly what arm he was, but he had a licensed firearm with him, and his vehicle was blocked. And the persons got out, they robbed the individuals, and I think they shot him. He died. They found his license in the vehicle. I'm wondering, for a trained individual of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force or whatever area he was in, should individuals be more prepared to fend off attacks like that? Somebody pull up in front of you and block your car, should you?
Well, the unfortunate thing in the defense force is only that if you're in the special forces or a special elite tactical team dealing with counterterrorism and activities and so forth, that type of training is done. The basic training is done for the military, because they're really trained to fight battles, not that type of situation, not that type of scenario. So there are persons on different ranges in Trinidad and Tobago that provide you with that opportunity. Hostage taking, knowing how to use your firearm, knowing understanding cover from view and cover from fire. Sometimes you see it in these movies. people, they're behind a table, and the table is wood. It's not going to protect you, right? But then you could go behind a car, depending on the type of firearm, the caliber of firearm that you're at. So you have to know cover from view so that the person cannot see you for you to be shot, but also cover from fire that you could actually be protected from the fire. All of these things, it requires immense training on a regular basis. But as I said, 95% plus of the persons who have legal firearms, they do not go on the range. And the reason I can say that is because we have limited indoor ranges in Trinidad. We have the list of the persons who go and visit these ranges. And the numbers are astronomically, it is very small in comparison to the number of people with firearms. So it means that you're not using your firearm, you're not clearing it. If you're going to get a stoppage, you're going to have an inaccurate shot, you're going to probably have a negligent discharge. But then you want a firearm. I just hope that the Prime Minister transform all of this and make it mandatory that you need a firearm, you got to step up and have the mandatory training on a regular basis to ensure that it could be of value rather than that it can affect someone.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be action for
Gary, and so we want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. But this is where we're going to hammer it because we're just at 8 o'clock. We have to go to our news update, and then we'll close off the program with some Mother's Day wishes. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure.
All right. And of course, wish Nicole happy Mother's Day on our behalf.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll do.
Take care.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, so that was Gary Griffith, of course, speaking with us on The Breakfast Show. But at this point, we now go to our news update at 8 a.m. A little after 8, but we'll make it work.
The news you need, the clarity you deserve. Local, regional, global. This is Net Radio News Now.
This is your news update for Friday, May 9th, 2025. I am Amanda Mitchell with New Era TT Radio and M&E TV. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar has outlined several priority actions following her first post-cabinet meeting yesterday. These include repealing the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority, scrapping the demerit point system, and introducing Stand Your Ground legislation. The Prime Minister also promised to make firearm processes more accessible to law-abiding citizens, stating that if you didn't want one, then you should just not apply. Other priorities include assessing the potential reopening of the Petro-Trin refinery, reviewing state-funded housing allocations, capping the maximum price of vehicles for parliamentarians, and expanding the Children's Life Fund. She directed ministers not to request state-funded houses and announced plans to reduce state-funded security to redirect resources toward fighting crime. In related news, Persad-Bissessar has opted not to occupy either Whitehall or the Prime Minister's residence and diplomatic centre in St. Anne's, citing serious health, safety and structural concerns. Minister in the office of the Prime Minister, Barry Padarath, told reporters the Prime Minister has been working from her private home in Philippine, South Trinidad, while arrangements are being finalised. Padarath described both properties as being in dilapidated condition, with issues ranging from rotten wood to broken furniture. The opposition PNM has rejected these claims. Maintaining Whitehall is in sound condition following extensive restoration completed in 2019. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost of Chicago has been elected the 267th Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, becoming the first American-born Pope in history. Now known as Pope Leo XIV, the 69-year-old leader was previously the prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops and president of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America. His election took place over 2 days inside the Sistine Chapel, following the death of Pope Francis on April 21st. In his first address from Vatican City, Pope Leo offered a blessing, saying, "This is the peace of the resurrected Christ, a humble and persevering peace, which comes from God. Peace be with you." Gary Griffith has officially resigned as political leader of the National Transformation Alliance, effective immediately. According to a statement released by the party, Griffith's departure comes after thoughtful reflection and in a spirit of accountability and integrity. Commander Norman Dindeal, the party's deputy leader, will take over as interim political leader, with internal elections for all positions scheduled for September 5th. Trinidad and Tobago has lost a beloved cultural icon with the passing of Wendy Kalicharan, after a prolonged illness. Alongside her late husband Ivan, she co-founded Kalicharan Mas in 1983, a band that dominated San Fernando's carnival scene, winning Band of the Year 31 times. Kalicharan was also a 7-time San Fernando Queen and leaves behind a legacy now carried on by her children, Aaron and Ayana. You are listening to news on New Era TT Radio. In regional news, the government of Grenada is planning to remove the death penalty as a punishment for criminal offences. Crown Counsel Ray Thomas disclosed this during Grenada's Universal Period Review in Geneva earlier this week, stating that before a final decision is made, the public will be consulted for suggestions and recommendations. Thomas noted that the last execution in Grenada occurred in 1978, and while the Privy Council has ruled the death penalty as constitutional in Grenada, there has been a moratorium since that time. The government remains open to receiving international support and technical assistance to facilitate this important conversation. That concludes your news update for today. As we approach Mother's Day this Sunday, we'd like to extend warm wishes to all mothers, grandmothers, and mother figures. Your love, strength, and dedication make our communities and families stronger every day. I'm Amanda Mitchell for New Era TT Radio and M&E TV. The Breakfast Show with Wendell, Richard, and Sir Charles continues right after this short break.
That was news now. Stay informed with New Era TT Radio, Net Radio.
RSRR Productions continues with Married and Mischievous. It's been held over for 2 more nights at Cipriani College due to overwhelming public demand on Saturday the 10th of May at 8:30 p.m. and Sunday the 11th at 6:30 p.m. It's Mother's Day weekend, so treat your mom to this fantastic adult comedy. Yes, Married and Mischievous. Tickets available at usual outlets and at the Cipriani College box office from Wednesday the 7th of May, 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily. This is not just a play, it's an experience.
S&H Rumbox, 137 Western Main Road, St. James, for all your retail and wholesale needs for alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. Call us at 686-0599 or visit us at 137 Western Main Road, St. James. S&H Rumbox, drinking out of the box.
Great news, Caribbean. The Breakfast Show is now on M&E TV, bringing you entertaining conversations, vital information, and influential perspectives throughout Trinidad and Tobago and across the Caribbean region. Catch us on Digicel Channel 20, Flow Channel 111, Amplia Channel 117, Blink Channel 109, Trico Channel 154, and Airlink Channel 10. The Breakfast Show connects with the Caribbean and Trinidad and Tobago like never before. We're now on M&E TV.
All right, so this is where we wrap up the show, the Breakfast Show this morning, this Friday morning. The weekend has begun, people. Enjoy the weekend. It's Mother's Day. Of course, it is Mother's Day weekend. And so, of course, we will be wishing you happy Mother's Day to all the mothers across the planet. Have a fantastic day on Sunday. I just had one housekeeping note that I am mandated to say. There was a competition on social media for some tickets for Married and Mischievous, and the person that won on Facebook is Keisha Lashley. So Keisha Lashley, congratulations to you for being a big winner for Married and Mischievous. Of course, there are giveaways on Sunday for Mother's Day's show. But Keisha Lashley, you won on Facebook, and there was lots of people trying to win those tickets. Get your tickets as soon as possible. Trust me, last weekend we were sold out on Saturday and Sunday. And of course, tickets are available at the Cipriani College box office for Married and Mischievous from 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily, and at our usual outlets, Electronics in Ariba, Jubilee Railway in Tunapuna, K-Squared Fashions, West Mall, Eastgate, and Brentwood Mall, and Antoni's Florals in Val Park Shopping Plaza, as well as Champlain Other Services. Get your tickets early, and of course, it's strictly for adults. Your mom was going to have a fantastic time. She is going to laugh her head off. Trust me.
I am laughing at this chat. Carol Guevara, I agree with you. I love this chat. And of course, Archdemesis said this program is very professional. Help them grow. All right. I love this chat too myself. Sometimes it gets out of hand, but guess what? Because of Richard, let's see that guy, only watching that guy there, he could have easily been the Pope yesterday. You know, we didn't even talk about the Pope.
We didn't talk about the Pope, no.
We didn't talk about the first American Pope.
It's kind of like a slap in the face for MAGA people, which is, I suppose, a good thing.
That's true.
Have a couple minutes. You can talk about the Pope.
But congratulations to Robert Prevost. He's now Pope Leo the 14th, the first Pope from the United States of America.
United States, yeah.
And he's following in the same footsteps of the former Pope, Pope Francis. So guess what? Take that. The Vatican said, take that. And we take one of your own too to do it. Anyway, folks, have an absolutely wonderful weekend. Treat your mothers as special. Well, I don't have any mother, but I treat my sisters special and my nieces and my daughter. You know, so treat your family special this weekend, right? Make it a great Mother's Day, all right? So remember, we have one life, live it.
Right, and remember, of course, to like and subscribe, even if you're watching us on M&E TV.
And
get
share.
to the YouTube channel, New
Like,
Era
and
TV
share.
Radio. And so like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It helps us in ways you will not believe. So please
Remind them
do
about the
it.
rerun, Richard.
And of course, there is a rerun on M&E TV from 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. today.
Yesterday it came a little later than.
Yeah, it's usually at around 2 p.m. that they do a rerun on M&E TV. You want to watch the show again. Of course, New Era Radio TT continues on all platforms. Well, certainly via TuneIn and and on the www New Era TT radio stream. So please continue listening. They have so much programming, especially throughout the day. And in the evening, Tony Fraser has some absolutely wonderful interviews that you should not miss. This is where we wrap it up on what? The Breakfast Show!
Yay!
Wake up, it's a brand new dawn. The Breakfast Show got the vibes turned on. From Maracas Bay to the Savannah line, let's start the day in Caribbean prime. Good vibes rolling through the air. The Breakfast Show.